In 2014, I served a Christian mission to Mexico when I was only 18 years old. The area I was appointed to was next to one of the significant car factories in Saltillo, Mexico. Now, if there is anything I can say about Mexico, it would be the food and spirits. Best food I've ever had in my life, from flour tortillas fresh from the stove to refried beans, chorizo, and so on. Like their food, they had the sketchiest ghosts I've ever encountered. I feel like in the States it's harder for ghosts or hauntings to take hold as much since people tend not to fear or be as superstitious. It is kind of like, the more you know, the more scared you can become and the sketchier the situation can be. Or worse than that, the more you know, the more you actively try to mess with things that should not be messed with. But sometimes you meet people who seek out the unknown. People who not only look for but request aid from spirits. One group I noticed more than any was those that prayed to / followed the Santa Muerte, or in English, the Holy Saint of Death. Most people have a certain look in their eye when they see a pasty white guy in church attire walking around talking about Jesus in a crappy Spanish accent. Most time it's confusion, curiosity, avoidance, etc. But I could always recognize someone who was a follower of La Santa Muerte. They tended to have a menacing look in their eye towards me, like they knew who I was. It felt like being a cop walking through the hood with a giant target on my back. Or it was complete and utter avoidance. Which wasn't typical. People were pretty friendly with us most of the time, and it wasn't hard to strike up a conversation. We're going along our travels, and we end up meeting this amazing guy, named Ricardo, if I remember right. Ricardo was going through a lot at that time, separated from his spouse and son, living in a rundown home with tons of stuff in there from all the junk he had to move out of his other house. See, Ricardo owned a pretty popular restaurant and made some amazing food. I loved going there occasionally for a meal, and he was more than happy to feed us with a discount or for free most of the time. What was interesting to us was the initial meeting. We go to his home, teach lessons on the gospel, say prayers, and do blessings to help him feel a little better about everything. This guy was really amazing, and it broke my heart seeing him go through so much at that time. We ended up working with him for about a month, making visits once or twice a week, and by the end of the month, he seemed a lot better. He's got a better attitude, he seems more hopeful, he's laughing more, smiling more, etc. One day he convinces his wife to come visit his new place with his son, and that's when everything goes to hell. At first, things seemed great. He's ecstatic, practically on cloud 9 for the next week or so. But slowly we notice a change. The first thing is his wife, who tells us that she worships La Santa Muerte and rants about how beautiful she is and how she appears to her sometimes. I'll be honest with you guys, it came closer to listening to the dialogue tree of a cultist in a game than a real-life conversation. It was different than anything I had experienced so far on my mission. She also wore different clothes than most people I had met. Her hair, her makeup, everything was just a little nicer or a little different from what I had seen. The area I was in had some poorer families, and maybe I had just gotten used to that. Ricardo's progress starts to go downhill. He becomes more irritable than before, and I can tell that he's getting stressed out from whatever his wife is doing. I start to get a feeling that something is off. There's a heaviness there that wasn't there before, and as the weeks continue, we begin seeing Ricardo less and less. One day we're walking by his home and we see her outside, middle of the night, smoking, and she looks absolutely livid. The look you'd have on your face if you were about to murder someone who just spat in your face. Suffice it to say that she was not in a good mood. We're walking up to the house to see what's happening, and the exact moment she makes eye contact with us, her emotions completely change. She goes from mama bear kill mode straight to crying like someone had stolen her purse. I have a mom who's a crier, and not even she could switch that quickly to cry mode. It felt deliberate, almost like an act she was putting on for us. We learned from her that her husband had suddenly raced out of the house with their son to drive around in a truck. She recounted what had happened to us over the next few minutes. How everything was normal, they'd gotten ready for bed, put their son down to sleep, and were just resting. She awoke to him freaking out. The Santa Muerte was standing at the foot of their bed. He'd gotten so scared that he immediately left with his son in their truck to get as far away as he could for the night. Unfortunately, that was the last time I saw Ricardo. I got reassigned to a new area, so I couldn't directly track how he was doing after that. All I know is that lady invited that thing into their home. She told us over and over how she had done things to get her to be there. Wish I had been in that area just a little longer. Maybe I could have done more.